Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Travis Leo, and I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Tracknicity. I'd like to take the next 30 minutes and kind of walk you through Tracknicity, an application overview, a few slides, and kind of show you what the product's all about. So what is Tracknicity? Tracknicity is a new iOS application for mobile field workers and installation technicians who handle parts and inventory for customers. We invented Tracknicity out of the need for a true inventory management function that integrates with QuickBooks. We looked long and hard. We couldn't find anything that was out there that really fit our needs. And as a business, we operate in kind of a hybrid inventory model. We buy a lot of parts for jobs. So we buy receivers and TVs and things for jobs, but we also buy certain things for stock. And roughly 90% of our stuff is for jobs and 10% is for stock. And we found that QuickBooks didn't do a very good job of handling inventory for situations like that. So we wanted something that seamlessly integrated with QuickBooks that would really be ideal for a number of industries such as AV, technology, HVAC, really anybody with mobile field workers who deal with both parts and equipment for jobs as well as inventory parts. Some of the key features of Tracknicity: it's full inventory management functionality from an iOS device. There's no special hardware required. There's no custom barcode scanners. It leverages the device that your field people already have. Features out-of-the-box QuickBooks integration with both desktop and online, and really any version of QuickBooks, Premier, Contractor, whatever you might be using. It supports multiple locations, so you can add as many locations for vans or warehouses or shelves or whatever as you want. Gives you a mobile barcode scanner using the camera function on the iOS app. It allows you to check parts in and out from your iOS device, as well as make custom requests. So if you need to request something to be delivered to the job site or staged for a job that isn't in inventory, you can use the custom request functionality to make that. It gives you the ability to do user configurable notifications. So one of the big challenges we had when we set out to create Tracknicity was that our company didn't have the ability to get notified when a certain product came in. So we'd be waiting to finish up the job. We'd need that last piece or that last mount, and it would be reliant upon our warehouse person to remember to tell our project manager, hey, this product arrived. Using these user configurable notifications, that project manager has the ability to go in, set the notification so that as soon as that inventory is received in QuickBooks, it will alert them on their iPhone and they can schedule the installation or whatever needed to happen. And then obviously you have full reporting and history by employee, by job. So you've got an audit trail, a job trail, all sorts of reporting that you would need in any sort of financial or accounting function. Many of you with mobile users will be familiar with T-Sheets. T-Sheets changed our business about 5 years ago. And so when we started developing Tracknicity, we said we want to do to inventory management what T-Sheets did for time tracking. We wanted it to be very cost effective. We wanted it to be very simple to use. We wanted it to be iOS and Android based. We didn't want special hardware, and we wanted it to integrate with QuickBooks. And that's how we ultimately arrived at Tracknicity. Visually, what we wanted to do is take what we're doing on the left, what we were doing on the left, to what we're seeing on the right. So on the left is an actual checklist or an actual clipboard that we were using in our company a year and a half ago to check out inventory to a job. And you can see as well as I can, it's quite a mess. There's spelling errors, there's things crossed out, there's things returned, there's van stuff. It's just a mess. And we said there has to be a better way. And lo and behold, that's how we came up with Tracknicity. As I mentioned earlier, we wanted Tracknicity to be very affordable. We didn't want it to cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per year. Small businesses with 10 users, we said this should be about $1,000 to $1,500 a year type of solution. It needs to be affordable for business users. So we came up with the 4 tiers that you see in front of you. And as part of that, nobody likes to be nickel and dimed. So we wanted all of our plans to include unlimited items, unlimited apps. You can download the mobile app to as many devices as you want within the package, unlimited projects, the mobile push notifications, cloud storage, and support. So you can see it's a very affordable, cost-effective solution to get you off and running with the value that it creates. So what problems does Tracknicity solve? It eliminates the need for clipboards, emails, and Post-it notes. If you're like most small businesses, you're probably handling inventory in that way today. It's an email or a Slack or a Post-it note saying, hey, I need this, order this, do this. With Tracknicity, all of your products are checked out from the warehouse using your iOS device, straight to a job, straight to a service contract, whatever it might be. It tells everybody what product is in stock and notifies people when product arrives. And what that by chance does is it eliminates the do we have that in stock phone call that costs time and money. So before our technicians had Tracknicity, our technician would be out in the field. The client would say, I want to add an Apple TV. They would call our front desk person. The front desk person would transfer the call to our warehouse person. The warehouse person would put that person on hold, go back in the warehouse, see if we had an Apple TV, come back, and all of a sudden, 3 people have touched that $169 device that we make no money on, and it took 15 minutes to do that. Now with Tracknicity, they can look on their phone and see, do we have that in stock, and go ahead and schedule the appointment right there while they're in front of the customer. It makes it incredibly easy to show when parts have been delivered to a job site, and I'll do a demonstration of that in just a little bit. It gives every employee a free barcode scanner. It makes project reconciliation quick and easy, and by doing that, it makes sure you get paid for all the parts on the job that you used. What we found is that at the end of a job, there was always a change and add. A client wanted to go from a 55-inch TV to a 65-inch TV, and we were not being good about making sure we captured all of those changes at the end. With Tracknicity and the integration with QuickBooks, we've got a direct link, so when that 65-inch TV went out to the job, when we go to do a final reconciliation, we can look and say, hey, where'd this 65-inch TV come? Oh, the client upgraded. Well, we need to make sure we add that to the final change order and bill the client for it. So it made sure that we were getting paid for all the parts that we used on the job. And the other problem, the last problem that it solves is it's easy to deploy. We looked at a lot of other solutions out there that were custom, expensive, required hardware, required us to change our business processes. And ultimately, we said that was going to be more difficult than we wanted to take on. So Tracknicity allows you to deploy it in a matter of minutes, a single click to the QuickBooks Web Connector, and you're off and running. Very easy to deploy with no custom hardware required. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to switch to a demonstration of the device on my phone. So I'm going to go to a new share here, and I'm going to go here. And in just a minute, you're going to see a copy of my iPhone screen. So this is just using a standard iPhone X, works on any iPhone device. Android support is coming out in just a couple of weeks, so we'll have Android here most likely by the time you see this video. What I see here is the dashboard. So if I click right here, I can bring up the dashboard. First of all, it's a branded application. So this version of Tracknicity is branded towards our company, Residential Systems, Inc. And I've got 4 options here: dashboard, transaction, inventory, and admin. In the dashboard, first thing I can quickly do is I can look at any of the open projects that we have in QuickBooks. So I click here, it pulls a list of projects from QuickBooks in real time. So this is not a separate database to manage. It's using the Web Connect function of QuickBooks and pulling those straight from there. So I click on this job right here, and I can quickly see that we have on this job a budget of 46 hours. We've used 18, so we're 28 hours under budget. The budget can be put in using whatever proposal software or estimate software that you use, and the used hours can come from whatever type of time tracking you use. So whether it's T-Sheets or ClockShark or D-Tools Mobile Install or QuickBooks Intuit Payroll, however you get your hours by job into your payroll platform and thus into QuickBooks, you can get access to that here. So I can look at any job, see the exact same thing. I'm going to skip past the checkout part and come to that in just a minute. Users can be assigned to different locations. In this case, I'm assigned to van 3, so I drive van 3. With a simple click, I can pull up and see what inventory is on my van. So in this case right here, I have a Chief 525 mount. I can see that I have 1 of them and the total value of it on here. So if I got assigned to a different vehicle, I could just change my profile in here and I would be on van 4. I can quickly go here and see a 2-week history of parts that I've checked out. So in this case, on August 14th, I took a Control 4 amplifier from the warehouse to this Cindy Sparkles upgrade project. I can see here a red means I took it out of inventory. I did the exact same thing here. So there's 2 of them there. So this just gives me a real quick history of what I've checked out. I can go in here to submit a request. And let's say that I need Cat 6 ends on my van. So I go here and I'm assigned to van 3, and I can either browse the items, scan the items, search the items, or if I know they're not in inventory, I can make a custom request. So I'm going to go here to custom request, and I'm going to put Cat 6 ends, and I need Cat 6 ends, and I click add. And that's going to now add that to the list here. And I click submit, and that's going to go to our warehouse person. So boom, right here, our warehouse person gets a new request from Travis Leo, so they know who the user was for those Cat 6 ends. So as the user here, I can now go in and I see that I've got a notification here from my requests. I go in here, I look, here's today's date, I click on it, and I can see that from Travis Leo to van 3 on this request date was a custom request for Cat 6 ends. So I, as the warehouse person, can say, yep, Travis, I have received your request. And now Travis is going to get an alert saying your request to van 3 has been acknowledged. So as the technician, I know that that request has been acknowledged. And when I go and stage those Cat 6 ends in the warehouse, I click right here, and Travis gets another alert saying your request to van 3 has been staged. So now I know that those Cat 6 ends are waiting for me to pick up or have been delivered depending upon how your stage process works. I can go back in here, I can look at the completed requests. So I can look at the history of requests. I can see that on this date, from this job to here, a Mac Mini was requested. So lots of different ability to do custom requests on here. I skipped over the checkout piece. That's kind of the core of the Tracknicity app. So I'm going to go into here. From here, this takes you into the transaction screen, which you would get to just by going here in the same location. So basically, this is how you move parts and pieces around. And in Tracknicity, we separate the warehouse from the staging area. The warehouse is items that are in inventory. They sit in your inventory. They're purchased for stock, or they're in your stock, versus the staging area is parts that were purchased specifically for that job. So let's say I want to take a product from the warehouse, and I select my to location. I can either take it to a van, I can take it to warehouse 2, or if I click on client, it's going to bring up an entire list of my QuickBooks clients, again in real time. So if a new job gets added today, it's going to show up here in real time. I'm going to select this electricity job. We've got a job number and non-contract. Non-contract could be service, it could be whatever. You could have multiple job numbers. However you set up your QuickBooks will integrate with this. I click here, and now I have the option to go in and either browse items. So I click browse items, and this brings up my inventory list, again, that is in QuickBooks. So any part that lives in QuickBooks is going to show up in here. So I go into Ruckus, and I want to take an R510 Unleashed. I click right here, and it brings me right there. Maybe there's an easy barcode on it. So I click scan items. I find the barcode for the product. I scan it, and it knows that that was a Control 4 16 amp. So it adds it there. Or last, I can go in and search, and maybe I know that it's an Apple, but I can't remember. Oh, it's an Apple TV 4K, and I'm going to take 2 of them. So I just plus the 1 right here. I now go and hit submit to this, and that's now submitted, that those items are moved from stock to that job. So if I went right now and looked at QuickBooks for that job, I would see those 4 items added into that job. So that's how you move equipment from the warehouse to a job or a warehouse to a van. If I were going to stock my van and I'm going to move a Cisco SG110 switch from the warehouse to the van, I do that and I click submit, and that's going to move the inventory from the warehouse to the van. With Tracknicity, one of the key features is the ability to see the purchase orders for a particular job and check them out to that job. So in this example, instead of from the warehouse, I'm going to select from the staging area. I'm going to go to that same job. And what this is going to do is it's going to bring up a list of purchase orders that exist in QuickBooks for these various parts. So however your purchase orders are getting into QuickBooks, if you're buying the goods, in this case, we bought 3 Apple TVs, 1 Mac Mini, 2 of these Chief mounts, these 2 Sony TVs. I'm the technician sitting waiting to go to the job site, and I can say, I want to take this Apple TV. I'm only going to take 1 of the Chief mounts. I'm going to take these 2 TVs, and I click checkout. And that's going to now show me that these are the only 2 items left on the pick list. And now QuickBooks is going to be updated to show that those other parts that I just checked out have been delivered to that job. So that's how I can easily take parts from the staging area and show that they have been delivered to the job site. That then triggers me to generate an invoice or calculates an over/under billings depending upon how you do it within your own company, because you now know what parts have left your warehouse and shown up on the job site. So that's effectively the transaction function within Tracknicity. The inventory function is going to look very similar to the checkout process when looking at parts. So again, not a separate database. This syncs directly with QuickBooks. So if the item exists in QuickBooks, it's going to show up in here. I go up in here and I go down to this Cisco switch, and I can see, first of all, I've got my cost and price. Again, this comes straight from QuickBooks. This item doesn't have a UPC code, but if there was one, it would show up right there. I click view locations, and it's going to show me where the inventory lies. So I've got 4 in the warehouse, 1 in van 11, 1 in van 2, and 2 in van 1. I can see a history here. So I can see that on June 17th, Jim Ford took 1 from van 1 to the job. So I can see all that here. Maybe I'm doing a cycle count, and all of a sudden I realized I've got an extra one of these. So I click right here. I go to quantity by location, and I can say, yep, I actually found one in truck 1, so I'm going to add it, and I'm done. I adjust my value. I could go in here and use the barcode scanner to learn a UPC code on this. So if I found the UPC code for this switch, I could learn it in. So that gives me all that functionality for my various pieces where I can search by manufacturer. I can just do a search like I did earlier. Maybe I want to look for a Chief mount, and it doesn't look like we have any Chief mounts in stock, but it brings up all of my Chief parts that are there. I can also do that same barcode scanner. So I bring that there. I'll use that same barcode from earlier, and boom, it brings that up. Now shows me that I've got a quantity of -1. It shows me my cost and my price. It shows me that history right here as well. So obviously I've checked 1 more out than they technically have in stock. So that's the inventory function, pretty straightforward. The last piece I want to show you here is the admin functionality. So this is the history and reconciliation. So I can quickly look here and I can say, hey, what's happened in the last week? And I can see all those transactions that we did earlier today. So I took that Cisco switch from the warehouse to van 1. I took the Apple TV from the warehouse to the job. I took that Ruckus 510 access point from the warehouse to that job. I took a Control4 amp. I can see the previous history. You see it color-coded, so it shows up different whether it was an internal transfer or out to the job. If there was a return, it would show up as green. I've kind of skipped over mentioning that, but Tracknicity can be used to process returns from jobs as well, using the same, instead of the functionality of the to, it would be to the warehouse from the job instead of vice versa. If I want to look at user, I can go in and it pulls up any of my users. Maybe I want to see what has Jim done. I look and I can see Jim's transaction. Here's a good example of a return. So in this case, Jim took an Apple TV from that job back to the warehouse. So now when I go look at that QuickBooks report, I'll show a -1 quantity on that Apple TV, or maybe a 0 if 1 was already there, because 1 did get returned. So I can see that full visibility right here. Within products, I can learn UPC codes like I showed you earlier. I can also receive parts to a location. So I can use this to receive parts straight into the warehouse, straight to a van, whatever the case might be. So that's a quick overview of the Tracknicity application. What I'd like to do now is switch and share with you the desktop, the device, web app associated with it. So I'm logged in here to Tracknicity. I'm just using Google Chrome in this situation. Works on any browser that you might use. First part here in the upper left-hand corner is inventory. So this is going to look very similar to what we looked at earlier. Just shows me a quick view of inventory by parts, by pieces, stuff like that. I can go in here, that same Cisco switch we looked at earlier. Again, I get my cost price. I see the history, so I can see that on Monday, July 17th, somebody took one from van 1 to this job. I can see the quantity by the various locations. So I've got all that information here. I can do a quick search here if I want to, and I can have active items or archived items. So if you've got items that are archived in QuickBooks, they'll show up under the archived items in here. So real easy way to get my inventory piece. I'm going to skip over the approvals piece and come back to that in just a minute. The core of the Tracknicity web app is the reports piece. So let me close out of here and go into reports. First thing I want to do is look at project report. So again, synced straight into QuickBooks. I start searching for a job, electricity, I bring up that job and I run that report. So this may look a little familiar because this is the same budget versus actuals that I showed you on the phone a few minutes ago. But within this, I can go in and I can get a little more budget detail. So in this case, I can see that my budget for pre-wire was 19. I've used 18 hours. My budget for install is 23. I've used 0. And my budget for programming is 4. And I've used 0. So I can get a good sense that, hey, I completed the pre-wire on budget, got a couple hours left, a lot of hours left on install, and my programming time left. So that's the quick view of budget. On the right, you'll see all of the items for this job. And this item is broken up, this items list is broken up into 2 categories. First are items that are on purchase orders. So these are items that are on purchase orders in QuickBooks. And the second is items from stock. So these are items that we took out of stock for this particular job. And I can look here and I can see that these items, these 2 Apple TVs have been staged and they've been delivered. If I click here, I can see that they were checked out on Tuesday, August 27th by Travis Leo. So I know that Travis Leo took those 2 items that were staged and delivered them to the job site. Same thing right here for this Apple TV 4K. I click on it. Again, Tuesday, August 27th, Travis Leo checked those out. I can look at this Sony TV, see the same thing, because I moved those all earlier in that example that we did. Using this example right here, if we look at this TV, you can see that we've ordered 1 and we've received 0. This little bell here, if I click this, this is going to alert me when that product is received in the warehouse. So let's say I'm sitting here, this TV is on back order. I click this, maybe this arrives tomorrow in the warehouse. As soon as our warehouse person receives this in QuickBooks, I'm going to get an alert on my iPhone saying that the Sony XBR65 Z9D for the electricity job has been received in the warehouse. So I now know, hey, this has been received in the warehouse. So I don't need the daily email from my purchasing person. I don't need the email or the Post-it note or the phone call saying, hey, this has arrived. I've got an iOS notification telling me that that's here. So that's really the core of the project tracking piece. I can look up different customers. Again, if it lives in QuickBooks, it's going to live in Tracknicity. So it's going to show up here automatically. I can go in here to inventory by location. So if I want to look at my total inventory, I click all items, it's going to show me what I've got. It also does a real-time calculation of the dollar value. So in this case, I've got $11,000. Maybe I can see what I've got in the warehouse, truck 1, van 1. I can see where my dollar of inventory is tied up in here. And I can also go in here to a history. So if I want to look at the last week, I run the report. It's going to show all those same transactions that are here. Maybe I only want to look at one particular employee. So I run that report for them. Again, shows me all that. Or maybe I only want to, maybe I only want to look for a particular job. I go to the job that I want to look at and I run the report and it shows me just for that job there. Actually, this is a pretty good example. You'll see here that this isn't coded in red. That's because this is a custom part. So something that we didn't keep in inventory, go in, make a request for a custom part. It's going to sync up there in that fashion. So that's why that shows up that way. So Tracknicity can support items that are custom in nature. The company functions, the general settings, this is where you would give it a company name, put your logo in here for how you want your logo to show up, how you want approvals done in QuickBooks, and this depends upon whether you use QuickBooks in inventory mode or non-inventory mode. We recommend doing it in non-inventory mode and then tracking your inventory through Tracknicity. But if you do use QuickBooks in inventory mode, there's a couple of different options that you have, and we'll walk you through those all in the initial setup and the onboarding call to get you going with Tracknicity. Inventory locations, right here, this is what allows me to add new locations as well as assign users to the locations. So if I want to assign or I want to edit the name of van 1, I can do that. I can add, van 6 if we get a new vehicle, and now all of a sudden I've got van 6. You can also set your default from location. So in this case, we have the default from location being the warehouse, but you could make it warehouse 2 if that was important to you, whatever the case might be. Users looks very similar. This is where you assign all of your employees as users. You either give them admin privileges or you don't, and you also set up who receives those requests. So if you remember back to the beginning of the demo, I set up a request to be received when a request was made. This determines who gets that request. So usually it's going to be your purchasing person or your warehouse person. And this is also where you go in and assign different vehicles. So maybe I'm now assigned to van 11, make that change. And when I look at my phone, van 11 inventory is what's going to show up for me. Again, I can have active users, archive users, etc. Total valuation is just a quick snapshot in time and history of inventory and where your inventory sits, as well as the top 10 items in inventory. We did this because as a business owner, I always wanted to know where were my dollars tied up in inventory. So this allowed me to really easily see where my key dollars are, and do I need to spec these on a job? Do I need to return these to a manufacturer, whatever the case might be? So just a very easy way to do that. And the last piece is the QuickBooks integration. So this is where you get going with QuickBooks and the web connector file. It's a slightly different process. If you're using QuickBooks Online, you don't use the web connector file. Again, we walk you through that in the onboarding session. But with a simple click and syncing the database between Tracknicity and QuickBooks, you're off and running. So that's really the core of the Tracknicity app. What I'd like to do now is go back to the slides. So now that you've seen Tracknicity, hopefully you have a sense of why it is better than the rest. It works with QuickBooks out of the box, no customization necessary. You're not maintaining a separate database. You're not maintaining a separate file. It syncs directly with QuickBooks. It's inexpensive and easy to deploy. We've got a number of companies that we've done a demonstration and an onboarding session, and they're using it 15 minutes later. Multi-location capabilities with no additional costs, no special hardware required. It saves you thousands in deployment costs. It's cloud-based and always available. Super easy to use web-based interface and iOS app. Custom requests that allow for easy van restocking and custom deliveries. This was a big challenge we set out to overcome with Tracknicity, was because we always found that if something wasn't in inventory, it didn't work real well. And we were then in the manual process again. So we wanted the ability to be able to support custom parts, custom things like that, because a lot of what we do in our industry is custom. So the ability to do that was very important for us. Purchase order notifications send real-time information to the people who need to know, and it's very easy to manage by end users and administrators. So who's using Tracknicity? QuickBooks users, DTools users. If you're in the audio video industry, it's been very popular with. We've been doing this for just a few weeks now, and we've got 25 customers who've downloaded the software and gone through the full onboarding session. So for a company like ours, that's been quite overwhelming. It's been a very, very good thing. We're in the process of signing up new customers every single day, and the response has been great. What's on the product roadmap? I mentioned Android support, just a couple of weeks away from that. A couple of other feature requests, minimum stock levels and notifications. So the ability to get a notification when your product reaches a certain stock level. Improving the search capabilities, making them just a little bit faster. Serial number tracking has been our #1 requested feature, and we're working on implementing that. The ability to do B-stock assignment or open box assignment, as well as assign notifications. So right now, to set up a notification, the person who wants the notification has to set it up, but creating the ability for, say, the warehouse person or the purchasing person to notify an individual when a product arrives has been frequently requested. Another request has been something to prevent certain employees from seeing costs or hours if you don't want to show that to them yet. So we're working on that. And quite frankly, there's more that we haven't even thought of yet. This has kind of taken on an organic life of its own. So we love getting feedback on things that are important to your business and adding them onto our product roadmap. So how do you get started with Tracknicity? Well, you've taken the first step and scheduled a free demonstration to see what it can do for you. The next would be to schedule a free onboarding session. And this is where we would sit down with you and we would show you why this is better, how you integrate it with QuickBooks, how you get your data cleaned up, how we get your users set up, and then you're off and running. And you get to try it. It's free for 30 days. You can use it for as long as you want. We're here to answer questions, set you off on the right foot. And that's really what's important. We didn't want to charge you for getting going with it. We want you to use this and make it as an indispensable part of your business as we possibly can. So that's the end of the demonstration. With that, I'm sure there will be some questions that I didn't cover. You can visit our website, www.tracknicity.com, or you can also feel free to email me. My email address is right there. We love to hear from clients. We love to talk to people, love to get your feedback. And mostly love to let you try the product. It revolutionized our AV business. There's actually a case study out on the website about the dollar savings and the hour savings that it resulted in for Residential Systems, Inc. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Like I said, if you have any questions, please visit our website. Please feel free to send me an email, and we're happy to help however we can.